Found myself in the streets in Seattle. No friends. My family was ripped away from me. My children. Her church and all the churches in Juneau taking sides with her against me. And I stood on the wharf, fisherman's wharf, right near where Frost's tug was. I looked around. I saw a yard with wooden boxes, crates, that were used for shipping equipment. It was right along the canal by the Fremont Bridge. It's 1989, winter. I had no one I could call. I had nothing. Nowhere to go. I walked over to the boxes, lay down inside of one, and that was my new home. Woke up the next morning, started walking around. I wasn't hearing any voices, I wasn't seeing anything. I didn't know what to do. The voice calls out, like, "Hey, Cedric, is that you?" And I turned. I go, "Yeah." He says, "What are you doing here? Where you been? Come on over." Takes me to a warehouse. The warehouse is right next to my boxes. The warehouse is full of acetylene tanks, oxygen tanks, stored fuel, diesel, gasoline, everything. There was a whole room full of guys, welders, engineers, dock workers. They knew me, or they knew about me from years ago when I'd been in Seattle. I was pretty much well known by a lot of people in Seattle. I had been gone for 5 years or something. I'd been a crazy artist there. I used to paint on huge sheets of glass, versatile glass. And I'd done the Shroud of Turin, blew up the Shroud of Turin pictures, done close-ups of the figure, how I was mutilated. And so I was an artist in their eyes. And I started preaching Christ, telling them about my testimony because they listened. Went back to my box, slept the night, woke up the next day. It was July 4th. These guys show up. "Hey, Cedric, come on. Come with us. We're going to make some fireworks." Nothing to do. Sure. We ended up in a house in a basement with a bare light bulb hanging. I was in a chair. And I had about 20 or 30 guys standing around me. And they're going, "Hey, Cedric, you saw Jesus Christ?" "Yes, I did." "You heard his voice?" Yes, I did. And they mocked me. That's what they did. They laughed to scorn and made fun of me. The way I was poor, the way I was dressed in rags, the way I was stupid, the way I was crazy. I was a loser. I had been brought low. And they mocked me. I didn't say anything. And then they mocked Christ. Which time I said, you can mock me. That's fine. I'm not going to do anything. But if you mock Christ, he will do something. Repent. And they laughed. Scorn, jeering, derision. And I didn't do anything. I just sat there under that light bulb. I didn't say anymore. So they got bored. So come on, Cedric. Let's go down to the warehouse and make some fireworks. All right. I just followed him down like a puppy dog. Really, I had nowhere to go, nothing to do. I mean, I was so lost. I mean, I felt like I'd been ripped in half. Lost my wife, my 2 boys, my house, everything, my job. And I followed him into the warehouse. And they go over and they take these enormous, huge, oversized black bags that are made out of plastic. They're leaf bags. They take these bags, bunch it together, put it on the nozzle of an acetylene tank, and turn it on. Fill it up with acetylene, and then take it and put it on the other side to another bottle, and fill it up with oxygen. So it was oxygen acetylene. Tie a rubber band around it, put a cigarette on it, light the cigarette, go outside, throw it in the wind, and it would float along. The cigarette would burn down and go boom. It almost shattered windows with blocks. Huge explosion. Ball of fire. They thought that was great. Go back in the warehouse, make another one. And I'm standing there watching this, not thinking about anything. I hear a little voice that says, "Get out now." I turn around. I was standing by myself. People were over there working on this stuff, and I'm standing apart from them. There's nobody next to me. And I'm going, I'm either hearing things where the Lord spoke to me. I can ignore it, or I can go out. I can go, all right, fine, I'll go out. So I walked over, opened the door, stepped out through a door that was this thick, solid wood, oak planks. And it was enormous. You could pass a tank through the door. It's that big. Opened it up, squeezed out, pushed it shut, and boom. The whole warehouse went kapow. I heard the explosion. I couldn't see anything. So I'm reaching, and I open the door a little bit. There's a wall of flame in front of me. And it turns black. I put my hand in it. My hand disappears. It's so thick from my hand out. I thought, wow, what am I going to do? There's people in there. So I stood there staring at it until it cleared up a little bit. And then I walked in. Bodies everywhere. I hear numerous bottles that have been had the heads blown off, and there was gas, acetylene, and oxygen pouring out of these bottles. Grabbed these guys and pulled them out. The ones that weren't blown off, that were still running, I turned them off. Took them outside. All these bodies in the alley and the wharf next to the canal. I'm wondering what to do. I don't have a phone. This is 1989. These guys start coming together, start picking themselves up. They didn't have any broken bones. They were just shell-shocked. They weren't really burnt too much. Just blown apart, just blown from the shock wave. I said, "Are you okay?" The first guy got up. He goes, "What?" He said, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Huh?" I said, "Are you okay?" I can't hear anything. And they all get up. Turned out all their eardrums were blown into their brains. These are the guys that mocked Christ. Now they had no hearing. They were stone deaf. Couldn't hear a thing. You fire a pistol next to his ear, he wouldn't hear it. He had no more eardrum. 20 guys lost their hearing. Just like that. Mocking Christ. And I warned them. They picked themselves up and put their arms around each other and dragged each other off. All these deaf guys, permanently deaf. Went back to my box. Woke up the next morning. I'm just sitting there next to my box. I don't know what to do, what to say, what to think. I'm completely lost. I feel like somebody's staring at me. I look. There's a guy in the distance. I'm just looking at him. I don't say anything. He's looking at me. And I'm staring at him. Our eyes are locked. He's about 10 meters away. He says, "I want to accept Jesus Christ into my life." I said, "All right, that's good. Come over here. Come on." Comes over. I grab him, I pray for him, I baptize him. He's crying like a baby. He accepts Jesus Christ into his life, and he goes. I sit down again. I don't know, I'm still the same. Again, there's somebody staring at me. And look, my eyes locked with this guy. He says, "I want to accept Jesus Christ in my life." I said, "Why?" He says, "I heard about it yesterday. I saw it. I was there." These were guys who could hear. These were just bystanders, witnesses. They weren't the ones that were mocking Christ, but they were there. And then after another, one after the other, more and more people came, and they came from all over the place, and they came to me, and they asked Jesus Christ to come into their life. That's the power. After that, somebody calls me up from Santa Cruz and says, I talked to somebody over there, and they said, "We have a job for you if you want it." I'm like, "Sure. We need a forensic photographer. We know you can shoot photography." "All right, fine." I went down there. I did that job for a while. And they said, we need you to take a deposition from somebody up in the mountains, some lady. All right? I drive way up into the Santa Cruz Mountains. I have an old, beat-up Ford station wagon. It's olive green, 1970, 72 station wagon. Big old thing. Great car. Ran well. And I pull up to this cabin in the middle of the woods. And I say, I'm here to take a deposition. She says, yes, I was expecting you. And for some reason, I ended up giving my testimony, which I gave in the previous part 1 clip. And she says, that's very nice. I believe you. She says, I used to be a prostitute. And one day, I went to a motel, and I sat in the motel with the door half open because John, the customer, wasn't there. And he was late. Some cheap rundown motel. And all of a sudden, this little ball of light appears at my feet. It starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I'm just sitting on the corner of the bed, waiting for my customer. And this light gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And next thing I know, I got Jesus Christ standing in front of me. She said. And he says to me, do you want to change your ways? Yes, she said. There's a pause, and he says, you know it won't be easy, right? You know it won't be easy. She goes, yeah. You want to do it anyway? Yeah. And she told me how she ended up buying land here in the mountains where I was and had built all these homes. And how she would go downtown and get all these prostitutes and all these young girls working and bring them up, put them in these cabins, pray with them, and through the power of Jesus Christ, they changed their lives just like she did. And I took her deposition in love. So I thought, well, I need to get connected with that power again. I feel like that prostitute on the street that needs to get picked off the street too. So I took my car and drove it down south to Hollister, California, to a place that I found out later was called Mercy Hot Springs. And I drove all the way up the tallest mountain I could find in the middle of the desert, winding road full of sharp rocks and blazing sun, got to the top of the mountain and walked the rest of the way to the peak. And I stood up there and I said, Lord, how about some of that power so that I have a mission and I have something? Is there something I can do for you? And I waited. The sun set. And I just was on, there was a big rock at the top, and I was just on it. I got tired, and I ended up crouched down on the rock with my arms around it, waiting. And all of a sudden, whoosh, I'm pulled up into the sky in the night with the stars. It was clear, into space. And I'm looking around, and I look, and I see the earth, and the earth is about the size of a basketball. And I go, wow, I can breathe. I'm alive. What am I doing here? What? And then a table comes out. A wooden table with 4 legs, very plain. right in front of me. And then a white tablecloth comes out and goes over the table, and then a chair comes out on the other side. And then this woman in a white robe sits in the chair, facing me. And then another chair comes, and I sit down, and I'm sitting opposite her. And she goes, "Oh, Cedric, look at all the little people. They're like little ants," with a French accent. I go, "Martine, I haven't seen you in 20 years. What are you doing here? What's going on?" And the Lord says, "I want you to marry her." I'm like, "You're kidding me. She won't marry anybody. She's rich. She's beautiful. Her family's connected with power. Why would they marry a guy like me who's nowhere, has nothing, and I'm on top of a mountain, or I was, and all of a sudden I can't even get there. I don't have any money. I think I have $20 in a car and a tank of gas. How the hell am I going to get to Paris?" He says, "I'll take care of it." All right? I said, "I'll tell you what. If you send me to a pay phone at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I remember the phone number for her, which I knew 20 years ago, and I put the quarters into this phone, and it connects first call, or I hang up, and she picks up on the first call. And her first words are, "Why don't you come see me? I'll go." Mind you, I don't have any change. I have a $20 bill. So somehow you're going to have to change that into quarters. He goes, "Okay." So I go back to my car, part of the way down the mountain, crawl on the back and go to sleep and forget about it. Next thing I know, I hear this sound. "Hello, boys and girls, it's 2 a.m. My radio had gone on, and there was an announcer saying it was 2 a.m. I jumped up, reached over, turned the radio off, wide awake, and I'm like, "Oh my God, how did that radio go on?" I didn't set any alarm, nothing. So I'm already halfway in the front seat. I get in the front seat, turn on the car, race down the mountain. I come to a fork in the road. I can go left or right. I go, "Let's go left." I go left, and I'm just driving along. I have no idea what I'm doing, where I'm going, but I have to get $20 worth of quarters. And all of a sudden it comes to a T, and at that T is a small trailer and a payphone. I go, "Okay, there's the payphone. Where are the quarters?" So I get out of my car about 2:30 in the morning, knock on the trailer door. The lights come on. "What do you want?" "I need change for the phone. We're closed." "Okay, that's fine." I walk back to my car. Door opens. "Hey, come here. Come in here." "All right, fine." It's a woman. I walk in. There's 2 pool tables and a bar and a woman. And she says, "Would you take this key and take the money out of these 2 pool tables for me?" "Yeah, sure." I take the key. I unlock the safe in the pool table where the money goes, and I brought the quarters and put them on the table. She says, "Would you count them for me?" I counted them. She says, "How much do you need?" I said, "I have $20 here." She says, "Okay, take $20 in quarters." I did. She says, "Thank you. Have a nice day." I left. Right outside is a pay phone. I have $20 in quarters. I don't know what the number is, and all of a sudden the number flashes in my brain. I see the number as if it's in neon. And so I pick up the phone. I put in $5 or $10 with the quarters. And I dial that number and it rings, it goes, "Oop," and it rings 3 times. And then I hear, "Hello?" I go, "Martine." She goes, "Why don't you come visit me?" Exactly the first words. I said, "Yes, I will. I'll be on the next flight." Bam, I hung up. Got in my car. Went back to my job in Santa Cruz. I said, "I'm going to France to get married." This guy says to me, "I'm going to give you the money you need to go. How much do you need?" I said, "Can you give me $2,500? He goes, "Sure." Gives me $2,500. I call up, make a reservation, get on a flight. I arrive in France. And I'm standing there at the airport. There's Martine, whom I'd seen 20 years ago, and her whole family. They take me home. I sleep, wake up the next day. I find Martine in the kitchen with her mother. I go in. My mother had given me a diamond ring. I showed her the ring. It's about a carat. I said, "Will you marry me?" On my knee. She and her mother were shocked. She says, "Yes, I will." And we got married. And the Lord comes to me and he says, "She will die soon." I said, "Will you warn me before she dies?" "Yes, I will." "What's the warning going to be?" He says, "There will be a black couch moved into her living room. And right after that, she will die." I said, "Okay, I got to change that. Can't let that happen." She was on barbiturates. She was an alcoholic. She smoked. She didn't believe in anything. But we didn't argue. I just would pray day and night. I would get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, walk through the vineyards, through the fields where they kept their horses. I was in the Lapa lecture house. There were houses, pools, everything. Prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. I wanted her to live. And I couldn't tell her. My mother hated me. And the father, he was a Gestapo officer. She was French, the mother. And when Martine got pregnant, she was in the driveway. The father kicked her in the stomach. And she lay there in agony, bleeding. And the baby came out, headless, with no head. And then the head came out afterwards. And Martine she went insane. She lost her mind. There's a fetus there, headless, with the head separate. I grabbed that old Gestapo Nazi, put my hands around his throat, and I almost choked him to death. I stopped just in time. Then the mother hated me even worse. And I didn't want Martine to die. So I said that I was going to pray for God to show me if her mother was with us, with God, or against God and against me, in a spiritual sense. And I went around to the back of the house, and I saw the mother in her bed. And the only part of her I could really see was her hand on her stomach, the left hand. I said, Lord, if this hand is against me and against you, in the name of Jesus Christ, break it and let that be a sign to me who she's with and who she's against. I went back to bed. Next morning, Martine says, my mother's going to be late. So that's fine. She had a separate house. We had several houses on the property, pool, horses, vineyards, factories, helicopter pad. Finally, the mother comes home and her whole left hand is in a cast. Martine and I follow her into her house and sit down with her. And the mother explains that she had an accident and broke her wrist, her left wrist. I said, do you know that I prayed for God to break your wrist if you were against me and against God? She flew into a fury, jumped up, grabbed a hunting rifle off of the wall, loaded it, cocked it, and pointed it right at my face between my eyes. And this woman was in a French resistance, fought against the Germans. She was tough. Martine had a nightclub downtown. The mafia came around and tried to collect. They beat her. She was tough. She took the beating. She was tougher than the French mafia. She wouldn't pay. They left her alone. And I had this woman pointing a rifle. The rifle was 3 feet away from me. I'm shooting her right here. I said, this is how the Lord wants me to die, so be it. She goes, yeah. Boom, pulls the trigger and misfired. Afterwards, Martine says to me, why weren't you afraid? I said, only the Lord's will is done. I said, if it glorified God that I died that way, it would have happened. And if he didn't want it to happen, it wouldn't happen. All my faith was in him. I put all my trust in him. And with that, I hopped on a flight and went back to the United States to try to find a house, a place away from there, hoping that there would be no couch brought into her living room, no black couch, to fulfill the prophecy that he'd given me, that would happen just before she died. I arrived in the United States, found a house. I got a phone call from the U.S. Embassy. Your wife is dead. That was it.